very long story short, then at 26, I decided to buy myself 2 properties for my 27th birthday.
Girl, what?
What's nice vibes.
I swear, let me get to the hard part, which is the BONGEKA and BISA's woes. I don't know if you guys want to just give a little background in terms of what are the things that you've tried to do or have equipped yourselves with in terms of understanding or, you know, going on the journey.
Okay, I'll start. I've been looking at property for ages. I mean, I feel like I saw someone post on like Instagram a screenshot of a tweet where they're like, you might have 3 rand in your bank account, but you're looking at property 24 and you're like, oh, 3 million isn't that bad. Meanwhile, you definitely can't afford it. I do that all day long. So what I've done basically is I've done a property course last year with UCT. But it was more property development, so I feel like it's equipped me a lot on that. But it wasn't practical. It was practical in terms of development and how to run a property developing a business. But I feel like there's small things here and there that it didn't teach me. So for example, I don't know if it's better to buy directly from an agent or directly from the owner. What kind of levies should I expect for certain price points? Things like that.
Well, I've been looking maybe for like a month and a half or something. But I think for a while, like I was okay with the idea of just renting. And then I was also like, because I lived in Cape Town and then I moved 2 years ago, and being here at my aunt's house, then there was also an illusion of, I could maybe just stay here and like figure out a deal with the girl and I don't know. But then the more like also like with my own thoughts and conversations, it's also been like, I guess the questions of why is it important to own property? Like, I don't understand. Like, I get it, cool. Like, it's yours, fine. But why is that important? I don't, I've had many questions for myself where I'm just like, the fact that I own it, because I've got many people in my life who own property who sell it later. So I'm like, then I don't understand. So I've had those questions with myself, and I'm interested to also hear from you. Like, why is it important to own property? Because for me, I was like, well, the schlep of paying rent, especially in Johannesburg, it doesn't feel like a schlep. I do a young deposit there, I do a young rent there. When I'm done with this place, I just move to another place. Like, why must I carry this mthwalo of 20 years, 30 years? Like, and that's the other part. It's like I'm basically 30. So I'm going to finish paying for this Ntunziki apartment when I'm freaking 50. That was the beginning. It was too many things that I just felt like admin. It felt like another level of adulting that I just didn't want to be a part of. But then I had so one of my friends in one of our group chats, she messaged in the group and she was like, guys, if we can talk about relationships and sex and this with such passion, I want us to start talking about finances and property with the same energy. And I was just like, babes, you've come to the wrong group chat, wrong people. I was just like, I'm triggered. I was just like, I don't know that I want to be a part of this. And mainly because it just also woke up a lot of other things around finances and being a young adult and taking care of your finances. My friend was like, you know what? Treat this process like you do Tinder. Download the app. She was like, download the app, go find your areas, swipe left, swipe right. It's just do that. And honestly, that helped me at the beginning. That was week 1. By week 2, it was then just like transfer costs, fixed rates. What fixed versus, what is that other one? Fixed, what's the other one? The one that forgot.
Variable.
Yes, variable. And then it was levies. And then there was... And I was just like, well, the thing is, I just wanted to like swipe left and swipe right. Like, I don't understand like why this is now getting
like buying property, just like sweet. Like,
yeah, like, and then I just come in and get out.
Just give it to me over the counter and let's fucking go. Like, why? Yeah. What's the rest?
Yeah, and then just to fast forward, get my story to then to just where I'm at now, I've gotten a lot better, and thanks to your Instagram stories, because somebody sent me a link to your Instagram stories. So for anybody who is watching, please do go to Zama's page. Her Instagram stories is packed, jam-packed. Her Twitter account.
If anything, my Twitter page is probably the better place.
Now I'm in a place where I'm on the financing part. And that part, I don't know how ready I am for that, because I've reached out to ABSA, Nedbank, Investec, AfriBank. My cousin said, look at SA Home Loans. There's many things. And they're all going to give me very, like, I spoke to a guy at Investec. The English, Zama, I can't. But I think a lot of what I'm trying to understand from you is, why is property important? And then understanding, I think, then the do's and don'ts around navigating your search, which I think you've touched on in terms of like, what is your budget, etc. And then the third thing is the financing, and how do you go about the right financing, and making that type of decision.
Yeah, I'll start with something you asked, NWABISA, on why property. I was taking notes of the different talking points that I should touch on. So the thing about the why property question is, I think first maybe let me answer my why property, because it's not going to always be the same for abantu, and you almost have to decide for yourself why do you want to buy, as opposed to being a perpetual renter, because there are pros and cons to both renting and buying. There's actually a thread I did on Twitter a few months ago, I think, on that, where I was literally looking at the pros and cons of both, and what you should be thinking of if you're thinking, okay, must I continue renting, or must I now make that jump to buying? So my property story is interesting in that I also started viewing first. So I started viewing shortly after I started working. So I started viewing probably at like 22, 23, right? So I'm viewing these properties, and it's great. Like, I'm viewing and I'm liking them. At the time, there weren't as many resources as there are Konamanje. You didn't have people doing Twitter threads or whatever. You didn't have any of that. And so even all the information that I was finding, or the majority of it, was US, UK, Australia. And that wasn't particularly helping me in understanding what the home ownership journey is in South Africa. So I view, and there were, of the ones that I viewed, or of the many that I viewed, I could actually afford them, right? But Guababa was just like, nah, this is a lot. I'm just thinking, because the same thing you're saying, this is a 20-year-long relationship. Yes. You are barely 20. Like, how are you getting into that relationship? Very long story short, then at 26, I decided to buy myself 2 properties for my 27th birthday.
Girl, what?
So from zero to 2, I don't...
I feel attacked on many levels. There's many things.
I feel like she's slapping me in the face, and she's like, you big loser.
Now, my thing is, okay, when you buy a property, they obviously expect you to have a certain salary, right? Tax bracket or whatever. Isn't that valid only for one property at a time? Or can you literally just be like 2?
So one of the things, and this is probably like the first pro tip, right? When you are searching for a property, and even when you're not ready to sign on the dotted line, but just when you're now starting to view, and you're viewing with the intention of, let's say, in the next 8 months or even a year to buy, I would say one of the first things you want to do is get pre-qualified. So what is to get pre-qualified? So getting pre-qualified is, and you can do this with a bond originator. I typically say work with a bond originator. Some of the banks do offer the service, but a bond originator has certain perks, and I'll mention them to why work with a bond originator. So let's assume you're going to work with a bond originator who's going to pre-qualify you. What to pre-qualify you is basically they'll ask for all your FICA documents, and then it's going to be like this long form you fill in with your expenses and income. Maybe you only have one or multiple, all those things. And they basically so to do the same thing that the bank uses to say you qualify for X amount, right? So they pre-qualify you. So let's say after you've done you've sent them everything, they have their credit guys doing their thing, and then they can be like, given your current financial position, given your credit score, which is so important, this is how much the banks are most likely to extend the home loan facility to. Let's say, for argument's sake, you qualify for a 1 million rand bond. right? So they pre-qualified you, they give you like the certificate, it's digital, and it will say 1 million, that's like how much you essentially qualify for. Now you know, because now we go back to, again, knowing the budget. Now you know, I can't be looking at houses that are 1.5 or apartments that are 1.5. Like, yes, dreaming is nice, but now maso ready, you can't, because you're not gonna get that bond. Like, you're not gonna get it. The bank is a decliner, and it will decline because you can't afford it. So your affordability is so important. A lot of the banks, actually not a lot, all pretty much the major banks, and even the bond originators, you've got your Uber, you've got your Better Bond, those are like the two big ones. Even on their website, you can just do a manual thing. That's not the final one. That's just a nice guesstimate. When they do the extensive one, where they look at your credit score, everything. They even ask you for, I think it's like your 3-month bank statements. So they ask for quite a bit to like properly pre-qualify you. But for Wena to just get let's say you're not serious yet, on those websites, they'll just ask you, for example, what your income is, expense, and then let's say you're gonna get it at prime, then just given that you can qualify for 1 million. But now you've worked with a bond originator. One of the first perks with the bond originator is their services are for free. So nobody who calls themselves a bond originator, let's say they're not from the bigger companies, because they're never going to say you must pay them X amount to do that work. It's absolutely free. Okay. They get their money from the banks. So you as the consumer don't pay them. So they do all that grunt work, report, and they sometimes, let's say, when they find something, they'll flag it with you. So let's say sometimes your credit score is actually really low. So sometimes it happens with, okay, you're earning a money, maybe your expenses, you're not managing them that well, but you are in other kinds of debts, like up to your eyeballs in those debts. So, and then let's say you're not even servicing those debts particularly well. Then it will flag with your, no, your credit score is low, and that's some of the things that the bank will look at, especially as a first-time buyer. Sometimes they might be like, we will give you like 3 months to first try and work on your 3 to 6 months to work on your credit score, and those kind of things. So first, work with a bond originator. They're able to help you. In terms of the question you're asking, okay, when you're buying a property, you're able to buy it like one at a time. There's no such rule. You're supposed to buy within your affordability bracket, essentially. So, example, let's say you qualify for R1 million, and this is essentially what I did. So I qualified for X amount. I can't remember the amount at the time, and it wasn't a lot. I was not earning a lot of money. I wish I was, but I wasn't. I certainly did have debt. I bought a car first before like a property, and had like a credit card. So I did have debt. It's just those things were serviced regularly, because they were just so the debit orders didn't bounce, yada yada yada. Didn't have like a million store card. I didn't have a store card. So I think those things essentially helped. So if you qualify for R1 million, we are actually, instead of buying, let's say, one apartment that's 800,000, let me rather go buy 2 apartments that are like 450 each. You're able to do that, and then the process runs like simultaneously.
Okay. So it's a total of R1 million. So it's not like you can go buy a 1 million and then go buy another 1 million separately.
Well, if that's in your budget, then clearly.
No.
Hey.
Please. Okay.
I think a really important thing to note, and this is probably like a pro tip, especially for first-time buyers, is there's a cost to home ownership. And it's one of those things, but sometimes these are like hidden costs to home ownership that we sometimes don't know when we buy a property, that you should be mindful of. So in the event, for example, where you qualify for that R1 million bond, and let's say you've got no ambitions of being a property investor, landlord, to live in, the typical tip I give to people is try not to max that 1 million up. Like don't go buying a property for R1 million, because your debit order bond.
I can imagine.
It doesn't skip a beat.
I can imagine.
Ever. And the thing is, you will underestimate the other costs associated with home ownership. So, for example, you obviously are going to be paying for your own water and electricity. You know that. but previously you were not, and let's make round numbers. Let's say your bond debit order is going to be 10,000, right? In your previous place, let's say you were paying a rent of 7,000. Like now it's an extra 3K. But when you, because you're like, oh, but I qualify for 1 million, if you're honest with yourself, you also know that you probably can't afford that extra 3K. Another thing probably to note, I should have mentioned this earlier, is when you get pre-qualified, you're essentially pre-qualified. The typical thing is you're pretty much pre-qualified on your gross income as opposed to your net income.
Yeah.
Right? So remember that thing, which is a third. So you're not going to be qualified more than that third, let's say as a first-time home buyer, certainly. So they use the gross amount as opposed to the net amount. And that's why now you must be like, yo, but the money, salary, first this was tax, and yeah, so, and like this was tax, and there is medical aid, and all these things. So you almost need to sit down and do your own budget, which, okay, fine. So yes, I've got 1 million, like I qualify for 1 million. And there are nice tricks you can use with the million thing. Maybe I'll mention them later. So you qualify for 1 million, but then you go and let's say find a place that is 800,000 rands, and let's keeping all things equal. Let's say your debit order is like 8,000. Now you're like, okay, this I can do. The costs, or the hidden costs, as I like to call them, of home ownership. So it's levies in the event where you're going to stay in a complex or an estate, right? And a levy, I can't emphasize this enough. Ask what the levy is, but also request a statement before you buy the place. I cannot stress this enough, because you're going to find, let's say you find a really great apartment in the Joburg North for, let's say, 800,000, and your bond debit order is, let's say, 8,000 rands. Then you find that levy is 3.5.
Yep.
Like 3.5. Like those are flames, right? Because that's a lot. That's something you could not budget for, and that's a lot. And there are complexes and estates where levies are even higher than that. I mean, I've seen levies where it's sometimes like 15,000. It's insane.
No, man.
So
what am I paying 15,000? That's
ridiculous.
The agents told us.
So in levy, Mahlala in a place like the complexes and the estates, it's basically joint ownership of Ijarit Lonke as the homeowners, right? So nonke nine part ownership go the greater thing. Yes, une unity yako, and unity yako, it's the contents that are like inside, right? And typically what's outside of the unity yako, so like the wall, for example, it's the body corporate or the homeowners, right? So that ownership is owned by Nonke. So in a pool house, in a guard house, all these amenities that are sometimes in that particular complex, that everybody may chip in to have that stuff service. So from security to the cleaners who clean the common like areas to the gardeners, so all those things.
Okay.
All that stuff. These are from Nonke collectively. Basically, that's what your levy amount goes towards, right? We also levy statement, you'll see you pay CSOS, which is the ombud, in the event where I am going, she's the body corporate, then you can go to the ombud to be like, hey, this is happening. You're able to remedy like issues with your body corporate. So that's basically what the levy amount is for. Whereas when you buy, and then on top of the levy amount, you're also going to have to pay rates and taxes. Rates and taxes is charged by the government. So it's the municipality that you stay in, and different municipalities have different rates. So as Fani, you could be staying in, and Cape Town is a good example, you could be staying in a certain part of Cape Town where rates and taxes could literally be, let's say, 3,000 rands, and that's just rates and taxes. And then you're still going to have the levy on top of that, right? So when you understand what are the costs associated, it also makes it easier for you to decide that the price point that you want to buy at. So now you can see, no, actually mixing up that million does not make sense, because what if levies are like 2.5? So now it's like 12,500. Then you say rates and taxes, let's say it's an extra 1,000. So you've just like gone from maybe spending 6,000-7,000 for renting to almost doubling it, and you haven't even factored in water and electricity in like the home ownership part. So when you just get a grasp of those costs, even when you're doing your search and you're shortlisting and you're filtering, it's easy for you to filter some of the prices. Now you're online, you're looking, and you're trying to filter. One of the big things to note is the price that you see is not, like the purchase price that you see advertised is not the final price. So this isn't like walking into Woolies and rate is 20 rands and you get to the till, you pay 20 rands. No. Good property, like I've never paid the asked for price for a property, but I'm also just really bullish and good at negotiating. So yeah. One of the things you can do, because I think asking whether an owner is negotiable, nani, doesn't help you as much sometimes. So let's say you found the place, let's say the place is 700,000 and you look at things like, so, and I used to do this religiously. That's why creating alerts for the areas that you've identified that you want to live in is so crucial. Because when they list the new property, they'll send you an email, or when the price goes down, you get that price reduced email, right? Because I'm able to look at how long the property was on the market for. So this thing of even looking at, I literally look at property every day, and especially the areas that I'm interested in and areas that I'm interested in investing in. Beyond talking to agents, and I look at it online every day. I says, oh, Lena, it's been on the market now for 6 months, so they're struggling to sell. It's easier for you to then offer less, right? Whereas Moibwana Iba on now, and let's say you're literally the first person to contact the agent, they might be less likely to go with that offer because they first want to have it in the market, let's say for a couple of days, or to see what offers they're going to get in. So when you're clear, oh, but this thing has been on the market. Sometimes you're even able to pick up a booty. They previously couldn't sell it and he's now changed estate agents. So I also look at which agency is like selling. Now they've gone and changed estate agents. They struggle, and sometimes you're just dealing with an unreasonable seller who wants their place to be sold for 1 million, even when the current market value of that place, or where the market doesn't have appetite for 1 million rands, right? And we do see that, like you do see sellers who are not negotiable, and typically what tends to happen with them is that then their properties stay on the market for a very long time, which is actually to their detriment. So Lana will not even, because we're talking about buying as opposed to selling, because we always say to sellers, listen, you almost have to be clear, Uguti, there's a nice sweet spot, and often when you work with good agents, they're able to advise you, Uguti, here's a nice sweet spot, they can list it for slightly higher, see the kind of offers that they get, there's data they look at, like Windeed, and that's basically like data at the deeds office. The unit next door, how much was it bought for, right? Let's say it was also bought in the past month. But next door, let's say it's a complex, the unit next door, it was bought for 700. When now you're selling yours for 1 million, like nappy, that like I don't want to pay 300K more for basically the same thing because our units are pretty much the same. So I think when you understand those dynamics, it's important. But also then you do a comparison. I need you viewing multiple properties. So the same tip that I gave you, Guti, look at the other properties in that complex. As Katin Google our ads, we are going to know it's the same complex. Where they even lead with the name of the complex. So more about a range, okay, Google a complex le. I'm advertised, let's say 800,000, and let's say I'm a 2-bed, 2-bath. But Lona and I 2-bed, 2-bath, but he's asking for 1 million. Then maybe don't go view that one. Go view these other ones that are at 800,000. So that's why it becomes important for you to also just understand the other properties, especially if you're looking to buy like in a complex, and also in the neighboring complexes, because it's relatively, I live in Joburg, so there's just so many complexes that you can choose to go to the one instead of the other because it's pretty much the same thing.
Because it's very easy to get lost in the excitement of it all. Like when you start to come across, I don't know how many I've sent to THEMBE to be like, yo, the fumen, oh, I found it now. No, I'm going to forget that one. I found my place now. Or if I send her one and she'd be like, yo, I'm going, no, this is the one that you need to buy.
Kaya late.
Like it's very easy to get like super, super excited. So just, I was sorry interrupting just to ask, please can you also just elaborate also further on why it is important to look at more, because my thing is that sometimes I feel like I found one, but how do I really know it's the one?
I mean, look, the first thing is, and I know it might sound like such a counterintuitive thing, because when we're buying certainly our first property that we have an intention of making it our primary residence, there's a lot of emotion, but don't make emotional decisions when it comes to property. In the same way that Abantu will be like, don't make emotional decisions when it comes to imali. You want to keep level-headed and understand the financial aspect of it. Because in as much as yes, it's going to be your, sanctuary, you're going to decorate it, you're going to do all these things, that it's money. Like this is literally an asset. It's an immovable asset. Your name is going to be at the deeds office saying you own X, you're going to be owing the bank X. So you almost want to take the emotion out of it as much as possible. Like as much as possible. And I know it's so difficult. Oh my God, it's such a difficult thing to do. So one of the things about viewing many is, and you can go about it in two different ways. I mean, I think I did it slightly differently. So you can either have this is what I want, and know it and be clear about it. So i.e., I want a 2-bed, 2-bath, garden unit that's north facing. So you want sunshine all the time. You can be like at that level, except a lot of people typically don't go in it being that decisive and knowing that, okay, this is it. And so that's why sometimes maybe they might be negotiable on the second bathroom, because maybe because of cost or whatever, or because gule 2-bed, 2-bath, they're not finding it in 4 ways, they're finding it in like the next suburb, whereas the 4 ways ones are the 2-bed, 1-bath. So when you view different apartments, when you view many, you're also just able to pick up different things about the places. Viewing as many as you can, but also not overwhelming yourself with the viewing, because I think there's a fine line between viewing multiple ones to get a nice sense and be able to do a comparison in helping you shortlist, because this is a shortlisting process. I think people almost need to treat it like a job interview where it's the different stages, and you must now almost pretend that you're the company where you start with multiple candidates, where you might have, this is the job spec, so you start filtering, right? So now on the website, you start filtering. And then you're like, okay, maybe these are the top 20 that I want to view. Now you start communicating with the agent, you're now viewing. And keep notes for yourself. You are able to take videos and pictures, you just ask the agent, and then maybe reflect after you've viewed a place to go to, this is a yes because of XYZ, a no because of XYZ. Khalipanti, do the next round. With Lena, it's a definite no, and so on and so forth, until maybe, let's say you're now left with the top 2 that pretty much meet all your specs, your price, all these things, like they meet them. And maybe the only issue that you might have with it is, this is now where you want to go back again, right? So you must view a place more than once, especially a place that you want to live in. View it at different times. A lot of times, property, we sometimes view it like on a Sunday because it's a show day. It's not a Sunday. Sundays or over the weekends, like a Sunday, guys, so now you will think, oh, this is so tranquil, can't you know? Then you even go, let's say, on a Monday morning, if you're able to start work slightly late, to get a sense of the traffic, like literally get a sense of the traffic. Because maybe it's the kind of job you have, you can't work from home, you must drive. Next thing you realize, no. I'll be stuck in traffic for 2 hours every day because there are so many complexes. So all of us try to leave, even though it distance in Ghana, but then we're like in traffic for a good 2 hours. So that's where you start doing a process of elimination. But you don't start doing that with all the 20 properties like Akonit, because you're going to probably say no to them for other reasons. So maybe the last 3 properties standing, that's where you can get into that pattern of going back different times, getting a sense, and so on and so forth. Okay, Bongegile had raised something around buying from an agent or an owner. I would say work within. So the thing is, starting seeing a lot of owners don't know the process that well. So you almost want to actually just work with the professional, right? Now where you'd be rest assured, okay, this thing will go smoother. And if there's something happening, you can go to like the agents affairs board, the state agent affairs board, if you need to report the person. So it's almost safeguarding yourself. I mean, I know there are owners who want to do it themselves, but you might find that process, especially as a first-time buyer, might not necessarily be the best. I think the moment people are slightly more seasoned, they're easier to manage. But I think as a first-timer, rather work with an agent because, like I said, not a lot of owners know the different steps. So, for example, when you buy a property, so maybe this is another thing of the cost. I didn't mention this earlier. When you buy a property, a lot of us are going to get a home loan as opposed to like tapping into trust funds we don't have to buy. There are always going to be lawyers involved in a property transaction, always. Whether you're buying it cash or you are buying it with bank financing. When you buy it with bank financing, you're going to have two sets of lawyers. It can sometimes be one who do both these functions, but it's going to be two different invoices, essentially, like two different lawyers. So you've got the bond registration attorneys, and those are hired by the bank to handle the registering of your bond. So, and this is obviously for the buyer because kuba ne bond cancellation, but that's from the seller side.
Wait, am I paying all these people?
Yes, we're gonna get to. So a funny story. So Zamantungwa is 26. She's like, yeah, I'm buying myself 2 properties for my 27th birthday. Great stuff. Move. The research that I did, I knew there was going to be lawyers. I thought it's 1 lawyer per property.
Oh.
And so then I get the first invoice. I knew, of course, it's going to come. I get the second invoice. I knew that it's going to come. That invoice in my inbox. I'm like, oh, what's going on? 4th invoice in my inbox. I'm like,
Oh.
is somebody trying to scam me? Like, where did they get my details from? I was social, right?
What?
I was like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? And the thing is, attorney fees can be quite expensive. I mean, you're looking at anything between, let's say, 15,000 to more
Per invoice.
Is this a part of the transfer costs, or is this a separate thing?
It's a transfer cost. It's not a transfer duty, because usually when people ask if it's part of the transfer cost, they sometimes mean transfer duty. So the lawyers, so you've got the bond registration attorneys and you've got the transferring attorneys. And my invoice swabo, the really good thing is it is itemized. So you're going to see literally everything they are charging you for, whether it's postage, whether it's the stuff they're doing at the deeds office, the clearance. And so it is actually itemized. It's not just a 15,000. That's it. You can account for each and every amount. A pro tip is you're able to negotiate with the lawyers. And I know that's something I didn't know at the time, unfortunately, but you're able to negotiate with them. And often they do kind of like reduce their fees, let's say by 5 or 10%. But you must budget for them, because the transaction I move it until you've paid the attorneys. Like I need to move, because for example, before your registration happens, you must have paid them. On top of, let's say you wanted to budget for a deposit. We always say budget for a deposit. You certainly are able to get a home loan without a deposit, but budget for a deposit. So you're able to get, for example, a 100% home loan. They do give them out, especially to first-time home buyers. I haven't struggled with them. I've typically always gotten a 100% home loan. So you're able to put the deposit that you had still in that home loan facility. It does actually help. So try and actually save up the money. And then there's the transfer duty. So transfer duty is a tax that you pay SARS, and it's for properties above $1 million. So if your property is less than $1 million, then you're not going to pay transfer duty. When it's $1 million and above, then it starts in a scale. Let's say, for example, it's the duty for a 3 million rand house is not going to be the same as a 1.2 million rand house. So that you must also budget for, because you're not going to register it until, if I remember correctly, you won't register it until you've paid SARS. So that also needs to be budgeted for in the event where your property is above that amount. there was IFLISP. So FLISP is a subsidy by government, by the Department of Human Settlement, that essentially helps people, first-time home buyers, access their first property. You need to be earning between 3,501 to, I think, 22,000. Actually tweeted about this on my timeline, I think 2 weeks ago. And I've got like all the requirements, nani. So one of the big things is you must be a South African citizen. You must obviously be above 18. You must have already been granted a bond. So you would have already started with your home ownership. You've gone to the bank. You've seen the property, nani, and the bank is going to grant, like, has granted the loan. So they give you like a grant. There's a letter with the grant that you must sign for. So you must already have that. You must have a dependent. And then you also mustn't have been a beneficiary of other government subsidies, housing subsidies, like getting an RTP house, for example. But yeah, I think they can go onto Twitter to check that one out. It works on a sliding scale. So let's say the person who earns 3,501 will get more versus the person who gets 22,000. It's paid directly into the bond facility, and it is to basically help you access the property. I mean, it sometimes could reduce your monthly installment, and those kind of things. So it's a really great subsidy. I think the different provinces work slightly differently. So it's not, it doesn't go to sit with national. The provincial offices work differently. So you to access the details, you go to your respective provincial office. So the way they do it in one province won't necessarily always be the same as the way they do it in another province. Yeah, and then there was why buy? So owning it when abantu like are gonna sell it, and it being a 20-year long relationship. So the thing about property, and when for example, when I reflect on my, one of the whys of property for me is, I think it hit me when I bought these two properties, and yeah, it would have been the first two. So one of them was the one I'm currently staying in now. And I took Uma to see them. So we started at the other one, and then we came to this one. I think it was probably, I may have just moved in, or was just about to move in, or something like that. No, I hadn't moved in, because I remember there's a picture we took, there wasn't furniture yet, so I hadn't moved in. And so I showed her the two, and then we came back to like this one. And, you know, she said to me that her mom, so my grandmother, used to be a domestic worker in this area.
Oh, wow.
And it just gave me pause, you know. And I literally go jogging here. It's like nice vibes, walk here. And so there's certainly a sense of, I get to access property unprovoked. Like, I remember when I decided to buy the first two properties, I was on a hospital bed, wishing like a crazy person. And I was low-key having an existential crisis, thinking, oh my God, I haven't done enough. Let me just finally buy this thing. And I was like, go big. And then I bought two properties. So there's something about the ability, certainly for me as a Black woman, to be able to access property and do whatever I want with it, right? Whether it's buy it and in any area that essentially I can afford. That is like fundamentally sentimental to me, especially when I reflect not only on my grandmother's journey, but also on my mother's property journey. But I think at an individual, why you buy property, and I think I even did a thread on it, one of the pros, I guess one would argue, of buying a property is when you're paying the monthly debit order for the bond payment, you're slowly kind of building up equity in the facility, right? Whereas when you are paying rent, there's no equity that's kind of accumulating. So let's say, for example, you've now been paying your bond, let's say for 10 years. And let's assume also you've been paying extra. Pro tip, always pay extra, or try to always pay extra in your bond account, because then you finish it like in a shorter period of time. The other probably pro tip, read your offer to purchase. Oh my God. So an offer to purchase is more renta, you have the rental agreement. The offer to purchase is you've been viewing the property, you now like it, you're happy with the agent, yada, yada, yada. You're going to sign this offer to purchase. It's basically the 180, even the address, there are certain details that must be on it, even this address, even the purchase price, many things. It has your details, the owner's details, people's ID numbers. Now it's long, many terms. Understand your offer to purchase. Because there are so many things that can be on it that you don't understand and could cost you money.
Do you draw that offer to purchase yourself, or is it something that someone draws up? Okay. The lawyers do that.
So as a buyer, as a buyer, you don't draw up the contract. Typically, the agent gives it to you. Like my agency, they have it. They a lot of them have their own template, that they use. Read it, understand it. And again, when you don't understand, ask questions. There's nothing, like, even if you think this is a dumb question, ask it. If there's a clause that you think, I don't want this clause here, have it removed. Because I think people don't understand the far-reaching effects of an offer to purchase and having signed it. So by the time it's now towards the end, it's like it's just before the property is registered. Umuntu wants to change their mind. Like at that stage, it's actually late, right? And if in the event where you're like, no, definitely I can't do this, there are going to be financial consequences. You're probably going to have to pay the attorneys for the work that they've done. You're going to pay the agent commission. You're going to pay. You're not going to be able to like just walk away just before a property gets registered because you're like, I am Saifun. So don't feel scared to ask the people you're dealing with 1,000,001 questions. It's literally their job. You're paying them.
Yeah.
Some of them are being paid by the institutions, whether like the banks. If it's the lawyer, this is part of what you're paying them for. So understand what you're getting yourself into. It's probably going to be like the biggest financial decision you're going to make, certainly as a millennial. And you want to be empowered now as you're making able to know, like I have a sense of what's happening here. I don't feel disempowered by the process or feeling like, let me just get this over and done with.